Support comes from ServiceNow. AI is only as powerful as the platform it's built on. With ServiceNow AI platform, your AI, data, and workflows all work together, connecting every corner of your business. To see how you can put AI to work for people, visit servicenow.com/AI-agents. We kind of see him in the wings over there. This man, imagine winning 150 some odd titles throughout your career. The man, the myth, the legend, Johnny Mac, everyone. So, one more time, come on, it's early. Let's get his attention. John McEnroe, everyone.
One more time.
Actually, there's no interview.
5 more times.
There's no interview. We're actually just gonna feed your ego for the next 30. One more time. There we go. Okay. Mac, I don't know that anyone can speak to the process of captaining the Laver Cup more than you and Borg. What are Agassi and the old Yannick Noah feeling this morning?
They're feeling a lot of stress.
Yeah.
They're trying to, think of whether these decisions they made, the picks, and how it's going to work out, and then hope that there's some level of fun in this. Because after all, it's a great event. I think everyone's going to enjoy it. I did it for 7 years. It's awesome. But at the time, there's a lot. I feel like there's a lot at stake, a lot of money you can make. And it'd be gratifying since Europe generally has most of the top guys. It's sort of been an uphill battle. It seems like the playing field's getting a little more level. Unfortunately, we lost a couple guys.
Yeah, that was tough.
So that's tough, too. You don't sort of know to the last second. You're always questioning whether you made the right move. But ultimately, you try to, as a captain, make that little tiny bit of difference, maybe 5%. That can be the difference between winning and losing.
Well, and talk about this, because we just kind of explained the format and the point structure on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, how the captains are there are very specific rules that everyone has to play the first 2 days. No doubles team can play together again until it's the tiebreaker. So there are a lot of moving parts. When you're Team World and you lose a Ben Shelton or a Tommy Paul, it's twofold, because obviously Ben Shelton's a top 10 player. Tommy Paul's been a top 15 player the last couple of years. But also they're very literate in doubles. So Andre's lost a little bit of his kind of optionality with those two out of the lineup. That's a concern, right?
Yeah, Ben was great for a couple of years. He played doubles. Doubles is more important than you think. To come in critically important at the end. We had a year, the first year we finally won at Team World, that this thing's not working too well, but it doesn't matter because I can hear you without it. But it keeps... I guess my ears are big. That's what I've determined. But 1 year, Felix Auger-Aliassime played the doubles, and he didn't want to really play the doubles, and he had to play Novak. And we were way behind going into the last day. The last day's got the most impact, points-wise. You can come from behind. I think that's why they came up with this format, so it ain't over till it's over. So, he didn't want to do it, but it turned out he was our MVP and got some confidence from the doubles, so you got to take that into consideration. Some guys, I wanted Ben out there whenever he could play. His maximum amount of doubles matches he could play, and I'm not sure what Andre's got in mind for the doubles, if it's going to be three different teams. But I wanted Ben to be with different players, like he played with everybody. Mm-hmm. And so it depends who you got, who's eager to play. Obviously, you want your best players the last 2 days. You're going to see Alcaraz, I'm assuming, get his feet wet. I didn't see, but I'm assuming he's playing a doubles.
Doubles tonight, yep.
And then he'll play singles and doubles tomorrow. Not singles and doubles. He'll play singles Saturday and Sunday. I don't know if he'll play another double. So it's sort of like a feel thing and what the player wants, if they're ready for it. The format's great, though, because it's not best of 5. You can do it all in an hour and a half. 2 sets, a tiebreaker, so I like that a lot. I think that's good for the fans too.
Right. How much when you and Patrick, who was your vice captain, when you guys were running through scenarios, how often were you able to kind of predict what the other team was going to throw out there, and how much did that dictate decision making versus let's just let it rip, let's put our best team forward? How much were you trying to kind of speculate what Bjorn was trying to do?
The good thing about some of the players, Taylor is an example. He's very well prepared as far as what he's going to do, and he also thinks through all the possible scenarios. So it's really a group thing that I had. I preferred it with the players were involved too.
So when you had those meetings, the players were in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting.
We'd make the final call so that they wouldn't feel guilty that, you know, they were having someone stay out and didn't want to be responsible for that. But they were absolutely part of like who they thought that the other, like Bjorn would pick. Absolutely.
If I may flatter you, I think you may well have been the ultimate Laver Cup player. You would have been a good threat, singles, doubles, good guy. Hey,
Why didn't they do this 40 years ago?
Really going out on a limb there, JW.
Yeah, we're going to call in McEnroe for the doubles point. Have you thought? I mean, is there what's your ideal Laver Cup matchup? I mean, have you played Time Traveler and thought how this may have played out in the '80s?
God, I hadn't thought about that.
You
imagine me and Jimmy Connors.
I was going to say.
Let's give Mac.
I don't know if that would have happened.
Let's give Mac a second to think about it. We actually did this. Roger and I did this in Boston, and the whole thing was like go back to a couple of years and who would have been on your team.
Exactly.
Right, and it was actually really fun to kind of walk through. It's like, okay, where does Safin go? Where's Hewitt going? I got Hewitt. That's a good one to have. But who would have been a couple of the players that you would have wanted on your team, singles, doubles, maybe someone you wouldn't fight with?
Oh, well,
there goes that.
There's no one left.
Yeah, right.
Björn Borg was the only guy I'd never gotten a fight with, on or off the court, and he'd be on the other team. So there'd be slim pickings. I mean, Peter Fleming and I, he was a top 10 player in singles at one stage. So people forget that.
Yeah.
He got hurt and it curtailed his ability to play singles, but he could play that. So I would have loved to like Pete. I played Davis Cup with Pete a couple times, so that would have been awesome. Had the opportunity.
I was at the one where you guys played the final and you guys played doubles. That was amazing.
Were you a ball boy?
I was
Were you the guy that threw it over my head?
I think I've told you this before. I was the guy. So they were playing Switzerland with like Rosé, and it was before that guy Federer, but they had these big Swiss bells, and it was in Fort Worth and open day one, and they're just banging these things. The road team, and they kind of cheered harder. So my brother and I the next morning went to a bike shop and bought a bunch of air horns. So that was us.
Thank you. That was my last Davis Cup match I ever played. So that, we went out in style. I had Pete on my team, Sampras, Andre Agassi, who's now obviously the captain, amazing, and Jim Courier. So
it was the best Davis Cup team of all time, in my opinion.
I appreciate that. We sort of felt like, we were unbeatable. Pete and I played doubles the last two matches, so Pete ended up being a pretty good singles player. I did play Davis Cup with Jimmy Connors once, and for 9 out of the 12 months, when we got to the finals and lost, we didn't speak to each other. So that's not the team environment you want.
So walk me through. Like, okay, so this is where the show gets good. You ready? Okay, so walk me through that. Walk me through that. You guys are on the same team. Did you have to like schedule when to be in the locker room to avoid each other, or was it like you just pretended like the other person wasn't there?
Well, it's not more like a we. It was more like him.
He started it.
Oh, he definitely started it. I played Davis Cup every year for 7 years leading up to 1984. I've been part of some teams already. So it became apparent to Jimmy and his sort of manager that the only thing that he hadn't won was Davis Cup because he had refused to play. It's not as if they didn't want him to play. He was the number one player.
I thought it was because
then he became a distant second. No, I'm kidding. He wasn't a distant second at all. But we were sort of going at it, but we had respect for each other as players, and I think I'd like to think we made each other better players. But when it coincided with that year, what happened to be my best year on the tour that I ever had. So that year,
still arguably the best year that's ever been had on
Let's
tour.
talk about that for a while. No,
that's what the last time you were on, we talked about that.
Yeah, right. Right. So I was beating his ass pretty regularly. So at one point, the late great Arthur Ashe, who was the captain at the time, says to me, "John, the team dinner is on Wednesday. Is it okay if you don't come? Because Jimmy doesn't want me to."
That's not a true story.
I wouldn't make that up, would I?
Yes.
No, it is true. I go, "Arthur, I love you. But you're also aware that I played every match the last 7 years, and Jimmy's just come in, and so it looks good on his resume."
That's fair feedback.
Oh, wow.
Do you think maybe he should be the one that doesn't go. And so he thought.
Sorry, was there not a world where you guys could just exist and not be like
Exactly.
petulant for a dinner?
So, yeah, I think was a world. But, you know, then he realized that I was right. And so then Jimmy ended up not coming to the dinner. But it was sort of awkward, obviously, that we're going through like pretty much the whole year not speaking to each other. We get to the Davis Cup final. We're in Sweden. Jimmy's all crazed in his head because his daughter Aubrey was about to be born.
Okay.
So he was out of it like a little man. He was worried about that, didn't want to miss that. I had just met in a new relationship, turned out to be my wife, now my ex-wife. So my head was all over the place. So we went out. We lost the first couple matches, so we're in big trouble. You got to win 3 in a row to win. We're playing the doubles.
You guys are playing together?
No, me and Peter Fleming are playing, and we're playing Edberg and Yara. They're a great team at the time.
Team, yeah.
And so we're 2-1 down. It's a tiebreaker in the 4th set. We got to win this tiebreaker. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at the corner, and I see, you know, Jimmy's cheering for me.
Way to go.
Hey,
See?
you won him over.
Did that
I go,
piss you
the
off?
hell with that guy.
Thought you killed him with kindness.
No, and I felt terrible because here I am almost like, screw that, man. I'm going to lose this. And I was playing for my country.
Yeah.
You know, so I felt horrible in a way. And then afterwards, Jimmy and I went out and had dinner.
What?
See?
Yeah. All of a sudden, it was like, it's all good, John.
I love their booing.
I'm like, what?
We don't want peace.
Kidding me? So I can never quit. Listen, I hadn't seen Jimmy for 6 years. I just saw him last week. And we agreed, Andy, as long as you're there, because, you know, I know he used to coach you a little bit. Let's come and play a little golf and have dinner afterwards. What do you think?
I want to insert.
John, you heard that.
Yeah, I heard
right?
that. Cats and
Oh.
dogs, that's great.
I'll be the peace. I'll be the peace broker.
maker.
I would
Yeah.
love to. Done. I'm going to report back. Mac, this
Man.
better not just be for the video because I would love to do that.
No,
That'd
no,
be
absolutely.
phenomenal.
We thought we were living in
Absolutely.
polarized times, and next thing we hear.
Look at this. I mean, guys, if McEnroe and Connors can go on a golf
Exactly.
trip, we can do anything. We can do anything.
Yes. He wants to beat my ass on the golf course, and he probably will.
He's pretty good.
wait, I think speaking of tennis history,
Yeah, tennis history. So last night at the gala, you know, we had a chance to hear you speak about Rod Laver.
It was great.
It was a wonderful
Thank you.
Fantastic.
What can you tell us about the guy that was your idol and that this cup is named after and what he means?
Well, what I said about him, I don't know if people know baseball, but he is our Babe Ruth. He's like sort of the person I saw. I used to cry when he lost to Ken Rosewall, and he had these huge arms. I'm like, how does a guy have an arm that big? So I did all these, you know, squeeze balls, all this stuff to try to get my arm bigger. Then it turned out I'm the only #1 in history that had the same left arm size, left arm and right arm.
Is that true?
Yeah, my left arm's
I'm sorry.
no
How is
bigger
that
than
even
my
measured?
And
Were people like in the 50s bringing out like a tape? Like how
it wasn't
that, like,
quite the 50s, Andy, but
Not like
thank
a-
you.
No, I'm not. No, I'm
talking about me.
Wait. Time out.
It was
Don't
the
do-
80s, okay, not the
don't-
50s.
Don't do that. Don't do it.
John, did he just say the 50s?
If you're going to say I was the only one who had an equal size arm ever, that would imply that the measurements had gone back before you existed. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. So what did they do in the 50s? Did they just like measure it with like a ruler? How do you know that?
They went into a cave and they.
Sorry. Your tribute to Rod Laver.
I don't know that for a fact.
Yeah.
Like, everyone I saw from Rod Laver forward to
Yeah.
this day, that whoever their predominant armor was bigger. But
Yes.
Rod was someone who I got to meet briefly when he used to have a big event in Dallas at WCD Finals, and he was the man. First guy that was on TV playing the WC events, won the Grand Slam twice, which is unheard of. No guy's done that.
And explain
Not
when we say the Grand Slam, we don't mean a tournament, right? You all understand what this is? Explain the 1962 of things, the amateur turns pro, wins all 4 majors in the same calendar year. Bananas, twice.
So no one's done that since. A couple guys have been reasonably close. Novak most recently had won 3 in a row and lost to Medvedev. I think it was 4 years ago at the U.S. Open.
Yep.
But it was unheard of. That Don Budge did it in the 30s. It wasn't until Rod did in '62. But here was the problem. Unlike now, where some guys can make a lot of tremendous living, no money in tennis. So in order, he had a kid. He had to find a way to make some money, so he had to turn pro. So when you turned pro back in the 60s, you weren't allowed to play the Grand Slam events. So for 5 years, Rod Laver played 0 Grand Slam events, even though he was the best player in the world. In '68, finally, tennis came to the realization it'd be better if all the best players competed. And so they opened the tennis. The first year, ironically, which was beautiful, as a soldier in the Army, Arthur Ashe won the US Open, which was a great message moving to the future that led to people. Well, yeah, thank you. I only wish he saw his stadium, Arthur. But in '69, Rod, at I believe 30, 31 years old, won the Grand Slam for the second time, beating everybody. So that was even more impressive than it was the first time. And he continued to play because he still hadn't really made any money. I'll tell you, he made $100,000. John, you probably know this because you're a student of the game. He played like 35 tournaments in 1970 to reach $100,000 in prize money.
But
First round loser at the US Open is $110,000.
well, that's because of Rod Laver, though. I mean,
That's what I'm
I hope
saying.
all of the players that are in these tournaments playing for these sums of money,
Right.
fans that can go into this beautiful building today and have an amazing experience. I mean, talk about what I found interesting was you started talking about what did Rod Laver's life look like in 1963 when he was playing for money venues?
Yeah.
Was he playing 5 times a week? Who was he playing against? What does that cadence look like? You're going from playing Wimbledon in 1962 and winning the Grand Slam to 1963. You're playing what? What are you playing? Carnivals? What are you doing?
You're playing anywhere
It's
they
not
can put
far
down
off,
a
by the
court.
way.
Probably here. Like they weren't allowed in there, but they play here and put on some, play on wood, play on some cement surface that was nowhere near what
Basketball
it is today.
gyms.
Right.
Basketball gyms, like college, high school gyms. Getting up and having to pick the court up afterwards, put it in a truck and go to the next place and do that 5-6 days a week. And that's in order to make, $50,000, $75,000 in a year. So it was a totally different time. I don't think the players of today realize what was the sacrifices that players made to allow them to have this opportunity to play this incredible sport. But hopefully, if we keep educating people, they'll understand more. And the players that are playing now, these young kids, thankfully, I think a guy like Alcaraz gets it. And obviously Roger. Thank you, Roger Federer.
Yes.
Yeah. Because Roger saw just a vision, and he wanted to pay tribute to Rod Laver, and he's done a wonderful job.
Talk us through. So this event in 2017, they call you and Bjorn, and this is obviously in tribute to Rod Laver and in tribute to those years, right, where he is playing in basketball gyms. And let's make sure that the current players get together to celebrate, but also understand, right?
Yeah.
Let's tell that story. You get the call in 2017. How was it laid out to you? What was your process towards a yes for this event?
Well, the process was pretty easy. Sort of like Rod Laver, count me in, basically, more or less. I met with Roger and Tony Gotzik, his manager at Wimbledon. They laid out this idea. I said, sounds like, sort of like make it like the Ryder Cup, which is huge in golf.
Yep.
And have an event that brings the best of the best together and puts them together as a team. And then when they said, on top of everything else, the other coach is going to be Björn Borg.
Was he confirmed first, or was it like, we want you and Bjorn?
I believe, I don't remember the exact timing of it, but I think that Bjorn said that he'd only do it if I was the captain. No, I'm just making that up. No, I think it was sort of pretty much at the same time,
Okay.
to be honest. They were, I don't know if it was like, look, we're talking to both literally the same day, I think.
Yeah.
So I think it was I know for me, and just read Bjorn's book, so he said the same thing. Very easy decision to be part of this and to try to sort of cement his legacy, and as much as we can, or as little as we can, to help that, we want to do it.
And also, a lot of things have to go right. Like, you can have an idea for this event, but you also have to have influence to make it happen. You have to be able to call Johnny Mac, and you have to have the credibility to, for him to think, okay, let's do this for Rod. That goes to Roger, right? To think through
Absolutely.
the storytelling and the other pieces of it. But as I was sitting here with Yannick Noah came yesterday, and he's not someone like I've known you since I was 17, and I was a practice partner for your Davis Cup
Mm-hmm.
team. I don't know Yannick that well. And for him to come here and be able to tell his history. Maybe there was a 7-year-old who didn't know his journey, the fact that he's like this rock star and his influence on the game. It's not only about Rod Laver. Obviously, he's the inspiration. He's the tent pole for this thing. But we're retelling the stories of our legends to entirely new generations of fandom through this event, not just Rod.
But I'll give you a quick Roger story. We went years ago, me and Bjorn and Roger played James Blake. We went to Asia, and it was after he had gotten sick at the finals in China and had to pull out, and was also struggling with some injuries. And I said, this guy's not going to play these exhibitions. It doesn't matter to him. He's got to take a break. Not only did he play, but we had a couple chances to eat some dinners, but he talked about how much he loved the traveling, how much he loved the press conferences, how much he loved the fans being around him. He loved everything about it. I'm like, really? How can you love the traveling when you're going, all over the world constantly, or some of the parts? And it's sort of that positive energy that he's got, that he brings, the joy that he played with, but just his vibe as a person rubs off on you.
Yep.
And so that, to me, made, I was like, wow, the way you look at things, if you look at it in a different way, and I think that's sort of what's been happening with this event. Look at the screen behind you. You see guys, a lot of guys that aren't really very demonstrative, or got way more so. I mean, obviously some of the guys naturally aren't and can let them out. But I think that the players understand that have played this, what a great experience it is. I hope, this is the only last thing, I hope that they make this more of a standalone event. As opposed to, well, I mean, there's like tournaments going on this week. Not that, many of the top players are playing, but other players had to think about, I've got to play in Japan next week. I got to go to China. I got to worry about points, rankings. So this has got to be something that's like a time of the year where you don't put anything else, so that all the players.
Is there such thing in tennis? How does that work in practice? We finished in November 27th.
That's true. It's very difficult to know when that is, but listen, Davis Cup meant a lot to me, and now all of a sudden, what's happening with Davis Cup? And so you have to figure out a way to help our sport, not just prolong the agony with some of this stuff. Right. I mean,
let me
not to bum everyone out.
Let me tie that, because I heard a fun story about the very first year. No one knew what to expect, right? It's a totally new concept. We're rolling it out. Are the players going to take it seriously? And they ended up having the opposite. They said the players were so nervous that they would walk out to the court in Prague, and there was so much tension in the air, you almost had to have a release valve. Were you surprised by, from the get-go, how seriously the players took it?
Yes and no. I mean, I was surprised in a way, because some people were trying to portray it as some type of exhibition, which was total BS as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, but you were slightly biased, maybe.
I was slightly biased. I was, the captain. But the moment this started, literally, once you saw them start competing and the way the format worked, you realized that this was something that it was going to be taken seriously, and just dismiss anyone that thought otherwise. The Prague event, the first one, was a perfect example. It went down to the wire. I think Nick Kyrgios had a match point on Roger to take it to the final doubles, which would have been unbelievable. He ended up losing that match. Not like, wow, bad loss? No, I don't think so, to Roger. But nonetheless, it was a very exciting event, and I think the players have been feeding off that ever since. And these things that seem like, you're like, why do we have to do that? Look at that. In front of the Golden Gate Bridge or something, you're like, wow. So you do things that you don't normally do in tournaments.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk to us about, Matt, because there's not a lot of things in tennis that didn't come quickly to you. You were at Stanford and you made the semifinals of Wimbledon, right?
Before I went there.
Before you went there, sorry. You were going to go to Stanford and you made the semifinals of Wimbledon.
You mentioned the roommate. What'd you do this summer?
Yeah, what'd you do this summer? I had an internship.
Worked at a hardware store.
I made the semis of Wimbledon.
I played a lot of tournaments after Wimbledon.
Yeah.
A lot of them. I was so burnt out that I went to my coach, and the coach of the tennis team, and he said, I know some of you guys have played a lot over the summer, so come back when you're ready to practice. So I didn't show up for practice for 2.5 months.
Yeah, I would be okay with that if my
But I said, look, I am
college
21 in
player
the world.
made the semis of Wimbledon. I wouldn't care much. But the point where I was going with it, Mac, was you took your lumps in this event as a captain.
I did.
The first however many years. We talk about how much the players care and how much they'll fit on one hand, but just barely. But talk about that moment where you finally broke through, and talk about the worry where it's like, was there ever a thought where, am I going to be a captain that actually doesn't get on the board? That's a new feeling for you.
Probably at 3 or 4, I started feeling like the Washington Generals playing the Globetrotters, because it was like we were close but no cigar. And it did sort of feel like we were running uphill a little bit. And these guys, 9 of the top 10 would be from Europe. And we're like, how are we going to do this? And we to the players' credit, all the players, they kept battling, and we weren't giving up or giving in, and we're just a little bit overmatched. But you get a little bit of luck, like that final day in London. We finally were in London, and it looked terrible. And it was like, here we go again. We're going to be 0-5. This is horrible. And then all of a sudden, we convinced Felix to play the doubles. That'll be good warm up. He doesn't really play a lot of doubles. He won that. He beat Novak of all. That was the year that Roger and Rafa played. That was the last match that Roger played in the doubles. We were down match point there, and people were like, why didn't you let those guys win? I go, look, they did okay. Roger and Rafa. We need the point.
I can confirm that he's won enough.
Yes, Andy, you could vouch for that. And so when we got to and then Francis played Tsitsipas, and it was just, we had the best celebration we ever had. We finally let it all hang out, and it was incredible. And then we won again, and we were so close last year. We were 2 games away. Francis was playing Zverev. Damn that guy, because I think it's like he's played 5 out of the 7, and the 2 he didn't play, we won, and the 5, he likes to rub it into me all the time. Hey, John, do you know I won 0-5 when I played? Screw you. Yeah. And Francis was a set and 4-3 serving, and all he had to do was hold twice. So even now, like a year later, what should I have said to him to sort of get him over that hump? You start thinking about that, and then you're like, God, I should have done so. So you always wonder the what ifs. You try to not think about it too much. And then the last match, Carlos, this guy Alcaraz, turns out he's pretty good, huh?
That blondie?
Yeah, that blonde guy. He played Taylor, and Taylor fought. He was Alcaraz was playing incredible. And we were down a set and 4-2, 5-3, and he broke back, and we're like, oh my God, maybe Taylor could pull the rabbit out of the hat. But he kept his cool. Listen, I'm pulling for Team World, obviously, because, yes. But, Earth! I will say this. Thank God for Carlos Alcaraz in our sport.
Hell yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Johnny Mac, thank you all for joining us here at Serve Live. A couple more questions with Johnny Mac. When I knew you were coming on the pod, and obviously the Laver Cup of things, I thought to myself, how cool to have this lifelong rivalry, friendship, relationship with Björn Borg, and then have an excuse to then have shared space and 7 more years of memories as captain. What has that meant to you to be able to kind of share this Laver Cup experience with your friend Björn?
I thank you for even bringing that up, because Björn Borg and I are sort of synonymous with each other in a way. And everything, I remember watching Wimbledon when I was 13 or 14, and he was on the center court for the first time. And
coolest guy ever.
The coolest guy. They said this before, so maybe some of you have heard it. But as he shook hands and he won his match, literally like 200 girls ran on the court and tried to hug him and grab him. And that's the moment I decided I want to be a professional tennis player. And then to be able to experience like the unbelievable highs and some lows, more highs than lows, playing him in Wimbledon finals, US Open finals, being his friend, feel like you're bringing the game to a new level. and then having him walk away from the game, to me, way too early. Read his book, buy his book.
Well,
and then to be able finally, after all this, I mean, you have lives, family, kids, we live in different places. The Laver Cup for the two of us was the greatest. A chance to just, rekindle some old memories, but mainly just to be able to see each other and hang out a little bit. You don't do it much, obviously, because you're with your team, he's with his.
Yeah.
It's more almost on the court.
Sure.
Talking on the court and go, hey, this isn't bad, isn't it? And just a chance to hopefully say, hey, let's make sure we keep in touch and see more of each other.
I don't know if you remember this. You played Bjorn in San Francisco at an exhibition event, and I don't know if you played the Cow Palace as well. We were talking yesterday. Yeah, exactly.
15 times I played the Cow Palace.
Big fans of cows over there.
It still smell there.
The Cow Palace.
They had those animals in before. It was rough.
I was going to tee you up for how great is it that tennis is back at the strong tennis market, and we're talking about
Well, now they're in this place. I mean, it's pretty good.
Exactly. It's a nice
This is where
upgrade,
the Golden State plays, right?
Yeah.
I thought they played over in Oakland.
They moved.
They did.
Oh, they moved.
Yeah, then they won a bunch of titles, and that's what it gets you.
Exactly.
Thank you, Steph Curry and Steve Kerr. One more thing that I was curious about. You've mentioned Bjorn's book a couple of times. You've mentioned that you read it. How is it for you reading this book from your friend, your rival, ups and downs? Like there's been this element of mystery around Bjorn, right? Walks away after you beat him in the US Open. We don't really see him again. I guess his struggles you probably might have known about more than the rest of us, but not exactly super public. What were your emotions when you were reading the book back with Bjorn?
My emotions were I went to the index and I looked up
John McEnroe. Yeah, there you go. And read about yourself.
34, 110 to 112. No, pretty much. But then there was no index, so I had to read the whole goddamn thing. I could have cut through the muck. There wasn't really anything, honestly, in the book that I didn't really know.
Yeah.
There's a few things where there was more isolation than I was aware of. And, it's difficult because by nature, we're sort of, on our own. It's a sport where you don't really mix that much, especially when you're playing. And at the end, it gets tougher with family and stuff. So there was sort of like, wow, I wish I had been there a little earlier or known more. But, even then, the person oftentimes, even if you're close, is not going to tell you that. So it's a really difficult to know. But, I guess the bottom line is, at the end, it seems like he's in a great place. That's what matters to me. God, I love the guy. That's the bottom line. Yeah. If he's happy, I'm happy. But, it's a journey. To me, I had a documentary a few years ago, and people wanted to talk about the years, obviously, and you want that to be part of it when I played in the Wimbledons and the this, that, and the other thing. But at the end of the day, for us as ex-athletes and players, to me, the journey and where I came from, what I learned from on and off the court, my kids, my second chance in a marriage, et cetera, that was more important to me, and hopefully that's what it is for him.
Yeah, I think the fascinating parts of the books, and my wife and I read Andre's book when it came out. He sent me a copy beforehand. He goes, just so you're not on your heels when you're being asked about it, there's some pretty big stuff in there. And my wife read Andre's book and said, I think I can understand parts of your world better for having read this book.
Yeah.
Right? So there is that kind of thing between tennis
You
players.
should read Andre's book also if you haven't read it. The beginning of the book, it seemed...
Got a copy here.
There we go.
Wait. Sorry, I have a
No,
question.
I don't sign those.
Oh, you're having him sign it. I thought you just never left home without it. Has that been with you since 2008? Okay, good. Well, it's a good one.
It was, in the beginning, he went to Balotelli's, and if you go by Andre's, what he said about it, it was like tennis's version of Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
So, you're like, whoa, I mean, how does he, come out of that alive? And other people, it's not so bad. So it was very interesting. That's a totally different read in a way than Bjorn's.
Yeah.
So that's good to have that contrast. And then there's the book about the politicians.
No,
I'm just kidding.
Thank you for watching Surf. honestly, Mac, thank you for being with us. You've been the voice of tennis on top of being one of the icons of our sport. We know that as much as you'd want to sit around and listen to a dumb little podcast for the next hour, there's more important things. There's actual live tennis going on at the Laver Cup today. Day one starts off with Opelka Ruud, Mickelson, Mensik, Fonseca, Caboli tonight. Mickelson and Fritz in doubles. Mensik's coming back, the double up for Mickelson and Mensik. And some guy named Alcaraz going to finish out the day.
Yeah.
One more round of applause for John McEnroe. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
For watching Serve Live, brought to you by Service Now. We will see you tomorrow. Bring your friends, 10:30 a.m.
Keep the Serve Live going. I love the podcast.
Appreciate it. Thanks,
Thank
Mac.
you.